Mr. Vaughn to give.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray, please. Lord, thank you for bringing all of us here tonight. Please guide us as we go through all the business that we have to go through for the county. Help us make wise decisions. And please bless all the citizens of Chester County. And thank you for all of your blessings for all of us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, before we go into the approval of the minutes, we want to have a motion to remove 8C from the agenda until May the 1st.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion to remove the 8C, which deals with the fire, rural fire request and the transfer of maintaining grant funds. And is any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Guy. Yeah, Mr. Guy is, I guess you can see, he's on Zoom tonight, so he's out of town, and he's with us that way, so we do have a full quorum. Okay, now we're moving along to the approval of minutes, April the 3rd, 2023.
Make a motion to be approved as distributed.
Okay, got a motion to approve as written. Is any, a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any citizens' comments here? Let me see. I got I believe Mr. Rice wants to speak during the public hearing. That's correct. So so it's basically no citizens' comments there then. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to open up the public hearing for the third reading of 2023-6, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and incentive agreement by and between Chester County, South Carolina, and Albemarle U.S. Incorporated, Inc., previously identified as part of the Project Raven with respects to the certain economic development property in this county, whereby such property will be subject to a certain payment in lieu of taxes, including the provision of the payments for certain investments and infrastructure, and providing for the inclusion of the company or company's property in a multi-county industrial business park and other matters related. We open for public comment on this. If anyone would like to speak, I believe Mr. Scott Rice has signed up for this. All right.
Hey, Scott Rice, 4627 Betty Dixon Road, Richburg, South Carolina. So I'll be real brief. This is regarding the Albemarle property. Just wanted to remind council to not forget about the wooded setback that we traded for the berm from a few meetings ago. So I don't know where things stand with, the negotiations, and this might not be the right meeting for that, but I didn't want it to get lost in the shuffle. So just a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Is anyone else would like to speak that didn't sign up? Okay, hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Moving on to ordinance and resolution and proclamation. The third reading of 2023-6, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and incentive agreements by and between Chester County, South Carolina, and Albemarle U.S. Inc., previously identified as Project Raven with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of payments for certain investments and infrastructure, and providing for the inclusion of the company or company's property in a multi-county industrial and business park, and other matters related thereto. Okay, I'll like to entertain a motion on that.
I move we approve third reading of 2023-6.
Okay, can I need a second?
Second.
Second, got a motion and a second. Need, any discussion?
Is Mr. Coslark gonna come up and tell us what it is?
He can if you request it to.
I would like for him to come up and tell us the amount of money,
Mr.
not
Kozart.
percentages.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council, administrator. This is a approximately $1.2 billion investment from Albemarle Corporation, or US Inc., approximately 307 jobs, and I'm happy to give more specifics about the project information itself if there are other questions, but I believe Mr. Agee's question is about the annual fee payment that's estimated to come from the company. Although that amount, as we've talked about with other projects before, other than solar, which is a little bit different, ramps up over time, with the estimated initial payment being approximately $300,000. The average payment over the 40-year period, and it's much longer than that, but effectively over the 40-year period, is about $3.7 million a year. There are years where it is much higher than that. There are years, obviously, where it is much lower than that. So please understand that is truly just a mathematical average. In the middle third of the projected, I say middle third, about year 10 through about year 30 or so, that number is about $2.2 million per year. So the earlier portion is going to be lower, tracking upward to about a $2.2 million, which will then remain more or less level for a large portion of the agreement. And then at the end of the agreement, as the special source revenue credit begins to track downward, that number from the company would go upward. And also as assets begin to become subject to ad valorem tax again instead of the fee in lieu of tax agreement. But again, the very rough overall average is about $3.7, $3.8 million based on the current investment estimates that we have. And that's the net. That is not the splits between the governmental entities, which I can also give, again, rough figures if.
Just out of curiosity, what would the 30% pay to the school district?
Again, rough estimate on that average would be about $1.3 million to the school districts. That's, again, that's about 30% of the 3.77.
How much, 1.1?
1.31 million. And these are all rounded figures based on that average.
And round figures for the life of the contract, or life of it.
That's correct, yes, sir. The county would be about 2.3 million. The fire district in which the project is located would be about 189,000, and the economic development fund would be about 151,000. And again, that is average per year over the life. The earlier years, it's going to be lower than that. The middle portion, or a little more than the middle portion, is going to be a little bit lower than that. And as you get towards the end, that number would track back up.
Would you please repeat the fire? I got my hearing aids in, but I still didn't.
Yes, sir, and I kind of swallowed it unintentionally. It's about 189,000.
Per year?
Yes, sir, and that's based on the average. So again, it's going to change.
So it does actually rise pretty high in those years, like 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes, sir.
Actually, all the way up to about $6 million,
That's
unless I'm reading the chart
2,
wrong.
3, 4, 5. Yes, sir. In year 6, it's about 5.5 million is the figure that I have. So in the first year is estimated to be about 292,000, and then it would climb to a height of 5.5 million in year 6. Then it would begin to decline down to about a $2.3 million number. which would remain more or less, I say fixed, that's estimated more or less fixed through about year 40. And then as that investment goes back onto the ad valorem tax roll and the credit diminishes, then that number would climb back up to a high of, again, roughly 8.7 million, which is why the average is about 3.7, 3.8 million. But for the majority of the agreement, it's going to be about $2.3 million in the big chunk of the agreement. And of course, that's subject to when the company makes the investment, that is when the year in which they make it, and whether they hit the 1.2 roughly billion dollars of taxable, or it is higher or lower than that figure.
Well, let me ask you one other question. The conversation that I've heard, is there future investments possible? What happens with the future investments? Do they come back and negotiate the whole contract?
So, under state law, they have 8 years under this agreement to make whatever investment that they are able to make. That is a statutory provision, and that is what the agreement also provides, which would make sense because it's consistent with state law. In addition, if the company invests 25% more than the promised investment, that is, if the company invests $1.44 billion within that first 8-year period, then the investment period would be extended for an additional 3 years. If the company invests $1.68 billion, then the investment period would be extended for an additional 2 years for a total of 13 years. After that, they would have to come back to negotiate with the county.
Any more questions for Mr. Carlotti? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think, addressing this, the issue of the setbacks on this, I don't see Mr. Levister here today, but I think the only reduced setback is around the admin, building there, and I think all the other, setbacks is, meets the requirement of the building and zoning codes on that, so. Is there any other council members have any more, other than what I can remember on that? I think the reduce on the setback was just around the administrative building.
I think you're right. I think there was a corner of one of the buildings that was in 750 feet as opposed to 1,000.
Yeah.
But they were going to, there was some issue about working to make sure that it got into 1,000, but I don't remember the process.
All right.
So initially, we talked about a berm instead of keeping the woods that are already there, the trees that are already there. I think it was after listening to the public input, as well as I think what the council wants is to maintain that forest area. And so when we did second reading, did we actually have that as part of the motion?
Yes, we did. I think I actually made that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did too. No, Ken can look.
Did they consider doing the berm also, the trees plus the berm?
There was some discussion about how they could use barriers closer to the equipment, whether it be berms or
Sometimes
shielding
reduce it.
noise, and that's actually, I think, was part of a noise mitigation that was put forward by them that Mr. Levister forwarded to us.
Yeah, I think it sounded real good, so they very conscientious about the noise that it will exist out there, and they are in remitting any noise that they can possibly do it. So I think they got a good feel for the community there and the residents that live there for us that. Okay, we got a motion to second. Any more discussion? If none.
Do we want to, Mr. Branham, do we want to add that to the motion, that we want to maintain the forest area along, that's Bryant Road? Bryant Corner Road?
Could,
It should have, I agree with that 100%, but I think somewhere, I'm positive I made that motion to do that when we were talking about it in that second reading, to do that.
I don't think that second reading motion has any effect on the third reading, so I think we should put that in the third reading.
Think so,
If
too.
you'd like to withdraw your second and Mr. Vaughn his first, and then restate that.
I'll withdraw my second if,
I'll withdraw my motion, restate the motion that we approve third reading of 2023-6 with the addition of that the company will leave the trees versus building a berm for noise mitigation.
Second.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. We got a unanimous on that also. Okay, 6B, the 2023-10, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the master agreement governing the York-Chester Industrial Park, from now on known as the park, to increase the park's boundaries to include certain real property located in Chester County and other related matters. This is relating to Project Raven. Need a motion on that?
I move that we approve.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Vaughn. All right, any discussion, comments on that? Here, no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Mr. Guy voted aye also. All right, passed unanimous. 2023-11, a resolution to approve settlement and allocation agreement in the South Carolina opioid litigation matter. Need a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve it for discussion purposes, because there's been an awful lot in the paper about this.
Well,
And since we've been on county council, there's been nothing discussed about this.
yeah, we need a second before we discuss it. Need a
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Mosley. Now, any discussion?
Ms. Winters, whoever, I mean, there was a tremendous article in the paper the other day about Lexington County getting a significant amount of money. And there was an article about all the counties, but I didn't see how much Chester County's proposal is.
Sure. And it's also, if you got your monthly edition of County Focus, there's an article in there too. So there've been 2 settlements so far. One was last year, and the one you're passing a resolution for today is for this year. And so the first one was with pharmaceutical distributors and manufacturers. And there were, I'll read them to you. It's McKesson, Cardinal Health, and Amerisource Bergen. Manufacturers Janssen and its parent company J&J, Johnson & Johnson. There was also a third manufacturer, but they have filed bankruptcy, and so they are sort of sitting to the side. What you're looking at tonight are 5 additional settlements, and they are now with pharmacy chains. So you've got CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, and 2 additional manufacturers, Allergen and Teva. And so the payouts on the first settlement have just started. I'm not sure that Chester has received any money just yet. Mr. Hester may know whether we have or not. I don't believe we have. So they're trickling in, and they're starting with the larger counties. And so the same thing will happen with this. The settlements from before were over $20 billion, B, with a B. Okay, this group is about 17 billion in addition to the first 20. And it's paid out over a period of years, so it's not one lump sum. Teva, in this case, we've got Walmart, they're paying 2.74 in this year in 2023, and they're going to pay up to 2.74 billion. Walgreens is paying up to 5.52 billion over a 15-year period. CVS, 4.9 billion over 10 years. Allergen is 2.2 billion over 7 years. And Teva is paying up to 3.34 billion over 13 years. They're also providing either 1.2 billion of its generic version of the drug Narcan over 10 years. So they're going to actually provide the drug or an agreed upon cash equivalent of 13 years. This newest tranche of settlement money hasn't been decided as far as who gets what yet, because it will depend on how many counties, political subdivisions enter into the agreement. the settlement agreement. And so, bear with me for a minute, Mr. Agee, and I'll give you a rough percentage. And now this money has to be spent on certain things, and the agreement is very clear on what it must be spent on. And so Chester County is 0.394796211% of the total settlement amount. That's if all of the counties, all of the cities enter into the settlement agreement. And I can tell you that for the first a settlement agreement, not every county entered into it. Not every county even agreed to be part of the settlement agreement. Chester County did. City of Chester also did. So theoretically, this is just a rough estimate, if it's a $100 million settlement, then Chester County would receive about $395,000. That's going to be a lot more than $100 million, but just for sake of discussion, that's the number that's there. A lot of this money goes to education, assistance. I know that the sheriff I think you've been part of the committee working with Hazel Pittman on how to disperse this money. So it's not something new, and unfortunately, y'all were not on council for the first tranche, but this is the second settlement agreement. And we've been told that there are probably 2 or 3 additional ones out there yet to come.
My only question is can some of that money be put into EMS?
Yes,
Okay.
that is one of the purposes. I don't know if the sheriff wants to speak to that or not. That is one of the things that it can be used for.
So, good evening. Before Dr. Frederick left, and Maria Bates, who was the director at Hazel Pittman, we met with Dr. Frederick and talked about this. Now, Maria is much more schooled in this, and she has since retired, but Kristen Gibson, her deputy, is now the director. And so we have been having these conversations, but our argument is we need to use the Pfizer money, and I'm unfamiliar with these forthcoming settlements, but we need to use the Pfizer money and any other money that is coming down the pipe to approach our opioid crisis comprehensively. You know, it doesn't just need to be used in enforcement action. It doesn't need to be used in the medical community. So our goal is, and we've been meeting quite frequently as a body of practitioners, people who are trying to lessen the impact that this problem's having. And a part of our group is to come up with ideas and solutions that will help first responders, to include EMS, law enforcement, and to do some things with Hazel Pittman, because they are our provider for our community in the rehabilitation world. So the long answer that I just said is mostly we're working on it. I would just ask the council to let us have some input in how that money is spent going forward. And I think Kristen Gibson would be the best person to have up here when those decisions need to be made.
And Sheriff, now that we have Mr. Hester, would you be amenable to him joining in on those meetings?
I think we could use his expertise.
I think you
in
could
our
too.
meetings, yes.
Well, the key thing to me is, and just for the sake of argument, I agree with you in what you just got through saying. The men and women out here that are meeting those needs on the ground and doing Narcan, doing IV, Narcan, and all of those types of things, they're catching the boogeyman. And we've got to remember those folks that are involved in that process. And that's why I was saying that about EMS. It's real easy to think you just go shoot Narcan down somebody's nose. That's not what happens.
I'm going to say we've had an overdose a day just here in the past 10 days, at least one death, if my memory serves correct.
Yep.
It's overburdening the first responders, and I'm not just talking about cops, I'm talking about EMS and these volunteer firemen and firewomen are getting off their jobs and going and saving people's lives through administering this Narcan. And so, yeah.
for the sake of argument, obviously I'm involved in it, but there are a couple of your officers that saved several people's lives before EMS and those got there, and just because they had Narcan in the car, and that was really a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Who has the authority to give those shots of a person that's in overdose?
Really anyone. I understand now when a doctor prescribes an opioid-based product, the pharmacy will sometimes give Narcan to the patient. I understand it's being made available. I know Hazel Pittman has some programs out there where Narcan's distributed in hotspot areas where we're seeing a lot of overdoses. There's some philosophical issues with that. There's some people that don't believe that's appropriate. My position is it's a tool that is available to us right now, and we're going to use it to save lives. It's a tool that the policymakers have made available to us, and we're going to use it until something else is given to us.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think this settlement is a good thing, but the reason we're having a settlement is a terrible, terrible cancer on society, the United States, not just this area, it's the whole country. And I do want to say that Chester County is taking other steps. The LEAD program that Sheriff Dorsey's got started, you're not going to rest your way out of this problem. This is something that takes comprehensive action, and Chester County's making a move on that.
All right, any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor of passing 2023-11, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous vote on that. All right, at this time, we're moving on to number 7, which is the administrator's report. We turn it over to Mr. Hester.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I'm going to basically read this because I didn't send you guys a written report this week. To follow up that discussion, since the approval just now of that resolution, I'll go in as soon as the meeting's over tonight and sign the documents that's needed to put Chester County into that settlement. So I'll take care of that as soon as we're done here tonight. First thing I've got is for everybody to remember, please, that we are streaming the county council meetings on our website. We also have them on our Facebook page and on YouTube now. And so let me explain a little bit the process, just so everybody knows that you can go to our website, Chester County Government website, and you can go under council, and as soon as you go under council, say live stream, and you can watch it right there on our website. We also have archived, and I think that was a question last meeting, how would we archive? So they're archived there as well. To access the archived council meetings, there'll be another button or icon that says archive under council, and then they'll be listed there in order starting tonight, correct, David? So that'll be the way for you to access those. That archive will be a YouTube video, and it'll take you directly to YouTube to see the archived video. So that's how that process will work. And we're just going to keep testing this method and evaluating it to see its effectiveness for council as we go forward in the future. Just another quick note, there was a community app. I don't know how many people know that there was a community app that Chester County government had. Anybody know that? Okay. So we have decided that contract has expired, and they increased our contract price by over 300%. Just for everybody's awareness that we are not renewing that contract right now, but there were only 32 users out of our 33,000 population, so I don't think it really was enough to justify the increase in expense. But if anybody in the near future, when that date comes that our contract expires, it won't be available for the time being until we find another option. I think I told you guys last time that I was going to give you an update on the Gateway Steering Committee and their priorities that they had given to council on March 20th. I met with the Gateway Steering Committee on April 5th following that presentation, and we had a follow-up meeting this past Friday, April 14th, to clarify some questions that I had with regard to their priorities that were presented to council. We've had very productive meetings and are putting together some revisions to their enabling act that I think suit their members, as well as that will suit county council and county administration. I will be going back in front of them on May 3rd to kind of finalize the back and forth that we've had, and then we will bring their revised priorities with an update to county council on the May 15th meeting, if that's suitable for everyone.
And council will be able to vote on them at that time, is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
It'll be up to you guys at that point to determine if you want to move forward with them. We do have an AC that is going down at our Gateway building, but I feel like Director Long's done a very good job out there with finding some money in his budget and securing some other funds from another resource to get that AC fixed. But if you didn't hear, we are down in AC on that building. And then our initial budget meetings finished on Friday of last week. And so we started this afternoon, the treasurer and myself, sitting down and going through everybody's proposals and requests for that budget. We'll do that over the next couple of weeks, preparing for the workshops for council. And then just as an FYI, I will be in Rock Hill with an orientation with the COG tomorrow. And then tomorrow night I'll be with our Economic Development Group at the CLT Alliance reception at the State Capitol with it'll be our Economic Development, and some of the Albemarle folks as well will be there. So we'll be there. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Hester. Okay, moving along to new business. The approval to use Blue Avenue as a vendor for a new Chester County tourism website using economic development fee in lieu funds. Mr. Chris Phillips.
If I could, I'd like to start this off talking about tourism in the Chester County. As everybody knows, Great Falls is on fire with different projects to promote tourism, and it's not just Great Falls. This is about the whole county. We've had discussions about county-wide economic development that is based on tourism, and I think the next step that Chris is about to tell you about is the next logical step.
Good evening, council. Hope everyone's doing well. So kind of to Mr. Vaughn's point, we've been looking at, we've been working within a tourism committee with Senator Fanning and some other leaders in the area. One of the things that was pointed out is that we do need kind of a tourism catch-all, a website, and we felt that the county would be a really good source for that. And so kind of looking at different opportunities for websites and who could create a tourism website, we did solicit several bids. One of the bids that we received was from Blue Avenue, who is also doing the rebranding and the design of the economic development website. They came in at a cost of $20,000 to design the website. We've worked with Mr. Darby, and those funds can be available through our economic development funds that we receive through the different FILO agreements that we have. And kind of looking at Blue Avenue versus some of the other vendors that submitted bids. Some of the other vendors were a little cheaper up front, somewhere around between $8,000 to $10,000, but they also had monthly maintenance fees that ranged from anywhere between $500 to actually over $2,000. So within about 2 years, the Blue Avenue proposal would be cheaper than the other vendors that submitted bids. So what we're here to ask you for is for the permission to go forward with using Blue Avenue for this service. And happy to answer any questions. Kimberly Starnes was also heavily involved in this process too.
And our treasurer couldn't be here tonight, but if you have any questions with regard to the funding of that, they're going to use the FELO funds, what he just talked about, and there's currently $273,380 in that fund.
So will this be something that will need to be added to the budget to support ongoing needs, or how, as far as the ongoing costs?
No, this is a one-time contract with this company, other than any maintenance issues.
That's what I'm talking about, as
that
far as maintenance goes, or changing, keeping it updated.
So our economic development group has made the commitment that they will run the website once it's built and up and running. They'll be able to maintain it. The only other issues would be if our IT couldn't correct an issue or help them with something, then they would have to go back to Blue Avenue. And I don't know if you guys looked at a maintenance contract. I can't remember if we talked about that.
So they've proposed an hourly fee. I believe it's $150 an hour. Part of what Blue Avenue does whenever they design a website like this, Mr. Wilson, is they will include training into that cost. So they'll work with us to show us how to make changes, make adjustments. Like if we have a tourism calendar, for example, we can go in there and make those changes with no issues. Only in the event, like Mr. Hester pointed out, if we have some serious issues with the website, then there's that hourly fee that kicks in.
I think that was one of the big reasons that the choice was made for that, not just for their quality, but also the fact that this was not a recurring fee that would be on that
Correct.
budget.
But it is definitely a quality company, and they're gonna produce a quality website. I think that's important. There's a lot of websites being redone in Chester County right now. The town of Great Falls is in the process of redoing theirs. The Great Falls Hometown Association is redoing theirs. This is a logical move for the county to go ahead and get a central location for people that want to come to Chester County, can get all the information they need. And it'll also link us to surrounding counties also.
All righty, we need a motion to approve Blue Avenue as the vendor, and I think Mr. Darby, you said Mr. Darby has already agreed that we have the funds to support this, correct?
Yes, sir. We've been in contact with Mr. Darby from the start.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question. What will be the URL? What will be the name of the website? What will be the?
So Randy Ligon actually has already purchased a URL. It's going to be discoverchestersc.org. He purchased those when we were at the very beginning of the process.
He's going to give it to us?
Sir?
He's going to give it to us?
Yes, sir.
All right,
That
thank
was
you.
his plan.
I know, Mr. Ligon. Say it again, discoverchester.
discoverchestersc.org. And I believe he bought the .com as well.
All right. Now, look,
I'll make that motion that we approve the use of Blue Avenue as a vendor for new Chester County tourism website.
A second.
second, got a motion and a second. Is it any more discussion? Hearing no more discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. 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 Unanimous vote. Okay. B under that is the Lando Fire Department is requesting permission to use leftover monies in the amount of $9,792 to paint the interior of the fire department. Mr. Jamie Bowman.
Good evening, y'all. Jamie Bowman, Chairman of the Board of the Lando Fire District. We have a line item of $25,000 that we got a portion of that from y'all to redo our floors. That was the permission y'all gave us. We're now wanting to get the difference. It's about 97, 92 and some change to now paint our building since the money's there. The biggest part of that is, to just remind you, that's our voting precinct for the Edgemore area, so we like to keep it looking nice and tidy. And I'll answer any questions y'all have.
Well, the money came from you doing a good job in getting bids to redo the
Yes, sir.
floor, so the money's left over.
Yes, sir. We got one bid now. We're in the process of getting two more. I've been in talks with Susan. So once we get those settled, if y'all approve our reallocation, then we can get that handled with her.
And again, I spoke with Mr. Darby today. We talked about this at length in Resolution 22-6, authorized Lando Fire for $25,000 to replace flooring at the Edgemore Fire Station. They expended $15,208, leaving $9,792 remaining for the request that they currently have to paint the interior.
How many rooms are being painted?
Oh, that cord. As many as we can. We're hoping to get the hallway and our voting area where we, see the most traffic. We got, I think it's, was it 4 rooms? Okay, all of our interior rooms.
You think it's
Okay,
gonna
all right.
take, total $9,000?
That's, we have one quote now that's a little more than that, but we've got enough in our budget, our maintenance budget, that we can meet the difference if needs be.
Okay, we need a motion to allow Orlando Fire Department to spend the leftover monies from the grant originally given to them of the $9,792.
Make that motion.
Got a motion?
Second. I'll second.
Second, okay, got a motion and second. Any further discussion or question? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Goes aye also, unanimous.
Thank you.
Vote then. Thank you, sir. All right, boards and commissions. Appointment to the Assessments of Appeals Board, Councilwoman, Ms. Mosley.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Chris Flynn to our Assessment Board of Appeals.
Okay, got a motion.
Second.
Need a second? Who seconded that? Okay, Mr. Killian. Got any discussion? Here, no discussion. All in favor of appointing Mr. Chris Flynn, is that right?
Yes, sir. Chris
Chris
Brown.
Flynn to the Assessment Appeals Board. Raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Guy, you vote.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous vote. All right, now I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss Project 2247, to receive legal advice regarding potential litigation, to receive legal advice regarding potential litigation, and to discuss a contractual matter regarding the county administrator. I need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion. We go into executive session.
All right, and a second.
Second.
Second. All
I got a question. Is Mr. David gonna, do I have to get out of this Zoom and open up another one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. He said yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be waiting on him to email me another Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.